Leave him! Leave him! Curious, I peered inside and froze. Based on what I could see, the layout of their apartment was identical to mine. But their living room window was completely covered over with newspaper. Panicked, the man dashed back inside the apartment, then turned and nodded at us. We're nearly done here, so just wait downstairs for us, would you? Without waiting for a reply, the man slammed the door shut and began to scream at the movers. Leave it where it is, don't you touch it! Meanwhile, the three of us, myself, Mizumatsu-san, and Takahashi-san's wife, trudged down to the first floor. Well, that was an awkward interaction. Damn. Okay. Once we arrived back at the parking lot, Hizei-san loaded her box into the truck and sat down on the bumper. She looked so exhausted I couldn't help but reach out to her. What happened in there? She looked up at me weakly, her lips twitching. Was she trying to smile? What made you put those newspapers up like that? I heard Hizamatsu-san call out from behind me, his shadow stretched across the asphalt as the sun continued to decline beyond the horizon. Well, I suppose it doesn't really matter now that we're moving. Over her shoulder, I saw the landlady walk into 203. Maybe she wanted to say one last goodbye to her tenant. You said you moved to the 201? I nodded. Yes, just yesterday, in fact. Oh, that's not good. Oh, poor thing. You have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. Her impending freedom seemed to bolster her courage to speak. We've endured that hell for a year. An entire year. Sorry, I went ahead too fast. Well, we've been living out of a business hotel for a while now. I just couldn't take another day in that monstrous place. She attempted another smile, though, whether out of scorn or fear, I wasn't certain. Could you tell me about what happened? Are you sure about this? Hizei-san's voice shook. It sounded less like a request for permission and more like a warning. I'm gonna have to go through it either way, so I might as well know what I'm up against. It was the honest truth, and it was this sentiment that motivated me into all that legwork today. Hizei-san glanced up at me. Her expression was one of pity. Then she went back to staring at her hands. There's a woman. She seeps through the walls. She seeps through the walls? Slowly, bit by bit, inch by inch. I tried to picture it, but couldn't. It just didn't make any sense. Once we're gone, you should go pull the newspaper down from the walls if you're feeling plucky. Then you'll see. What about from the windows? Mizumatsu-san, who had been quiet for some time, finally spoke. But I had a feeling I knew the answer. Her hand. Whose hand? A woman's hand. It crawls over the windows, and even if you close the curtains, you'll still see it. A shiver ran down my spine. Isao-san hopped off the truck and walked over to me as if she sensed my fear. Then she pulled something from her pocket and pushed it into my hands.
大家さんに内緒で作った合鍵。あの部屋にあるものを見たら、何が起こるか分かったら、どこかに避難した方がいいわ。
The landlady doesn't know I made the spare key. Once you've seen it, once you know what's coming, you should take shelter someplace else.
少なくとも夜の間だけでも。
At least during the night. Her voice was quiet yet impassioned. Moved by her entreaty, I cupped my right hand around hers. Moments later, I felt a small metal object land in my palm. I looked down at my hand and found myself holding a key, one that looked very similar to my own.
なぜ私に？
Why are you giving this to me?
本当はそういうの専門の雑誌社に売る予定だったの。でもその記者が
That's a shame. You would have gotten good money off that lady. To tell you the truth, I was planning to sell it to a paranormal magazine publisher, but that journalist stopped coming around, so I have no use for it now. I wasn't sure what to say. The key felt heavy in my hand. I could feel it practically begging to be used.
Oi, Hisae! 行くぞ!
Come on, Hisae, we're leaving. At the sudden voice, I realized her husband was standing beside the moving truck. Behind him, I could see the landlady heading back to her house, looking quite displeased. Yeah. The man looked over at me.
すいませんね。もう出ますから。
Sorry, but we gotta go now. Then he headed to his car and hopped inside as if he was washing his hands of this place entirely. Hisae-san watched him go, then turned back to us.
じゃあお元気で。
Well, this is goodbye. Stay safe.
高橋さんもお元気で。
Oh, you too, Takahashi-san? With a wave, she turned and climbed into her husband's car. No sooner had the passenger door shut than the car backed up and took off out of the parking lot, followed shortly by the moving truck. Left alone under the red glow of the sunset, I stared down wordlessly at the key in my hand.
車動かそうか?
You want me to park your car for you? His words brought me back to reality at the start.
大丈夫。
No, I can do it. I headed over to my car, all the while gazing up at apartment 203. The Takahashi family's fearful expressions lingered in my mind.
剥がすな!
Leave them! Leave them! What on earth were they so afraid of? Stuffing the key in my pocket, I climbed into the driver's seat.
So what
are your plans for the key? I parked my car in the complex parking lot and hopped out.
203の鍵のこと。
You mean the one at 203? Obviously that was what he meant. Izumatsu-san nodded and looked up at the second floor.
そんなに急ぐこともないとは思うけど、もし明日ハウスクリーニングに入ったら、その鍵があっても意味がないでしょ。
There's no real rush per se, but if the landlady calls in house cleaning services tomorrow morning, that key would go completely to waste. Ugh, good point. Yep, he had a point. While it was unlikely she'd be able to fill the vacancy anytime soon, I knew there was always exceptions. Myself, for example. The apartment would be cleaned, the newspapers would be taken down, and eventually it would be as though nothing strange had ever happened. At that point, I would lose any chance I had of learning exactly what had taken place there. Assuming another tenant like Takahashi-san didn't turn up, that is.
行きましょうよ。俺もついてくから。
Let's just go. I'll be right there with you. Easy for you to say, I
でも
thought.
もうすぐ暗くなっちゃう
It's almost dark, you know?
暗くなったらもっと行けなくなるよ。行くなら今のうち。
He's right. Yeah, once it's dark, we'll lose our nerve, so we should just make it quick. Okay, point
さあ、
taken.
行きましょう。
Go on, let's go.
あ、
Well, hey! Apparently he wasn't about to take no for an answer. Izumatsu-san slung an arm around my shoulder and set off toward the main entrance. He, pushed her in there. Found myself having to half jog just to keep up with the stride.
ちょっと待って久松さん
Slow down, Izumatsu-san.
第5でいいですよ。
Oh, thank you. God. That's a hard name to say. Call me Dago.
いやそんないきなり慣れ慣れしい
I don't think it matters at this point, lady. You two are obviously digging each other. Isn't it a little early to get that personal?
同じ謎を追う戦友でしょ。気
I
にしない
mean,
気にしない。
yeah. That's kind of life or death here, so, you know. That's really the more important thing, obviously. We're partners in this investigation, aren't we? No
あな
biggie.
たは気にしなくても。
Oh, stop being so formal. K, whatever. Maybe not to you, but there's another story to me, actually. But before I could get the words out, he suddenly came to a stop. We had arrived at the freshly vacated apartment 203. The door seemed to tower menacingly before us, impeding our path. No, impeding our path.
ゆきさ
Sorry.
ん、鍵。
The key, Yuki-san.
私のことは名字でいいんだ。
Oh, so I have to use your first name, but you're gonna use my last
だ
name?
って名前聞いてないですし。
I mean, you sort of never told me your first name. Kind of think if he had a point. Good God, lady. That said, I got the feeling that telling him my name was tantamount to letting him win, so instead I pulled the key out of my pocket and silently handed it to him.
俺が開けるんですか？
Yeah? You want me to open it? I nodded and he plucked the key from my palm. Just like that, my hand felt worlds
誰
lighter.
が開けても一緒ですよ、こんなの。
I guess it doesn't really matter who opens the
久
door.
松さんは怖くないの？
Aren't you scared, Hizamatsu-san?
第5。怖いですよ。俺も人間ですからね。
Oh, Diego. And yeah, I'm scared. I'm human too, you know. Contrary to his claim, he promptly stuck the key in the lock and rotated it. There was a metallic click as the cylinder turned. He put the key in his pocket, then grasped the doorknob. Behind us, the sunset was fading fast. It'd only get darker
久
from
松さ
here.
ん、大丈夫？
You okay, Hizamatsu-san?
第5だってば。
That's Diego.
大丈夫じゃな
No.
いけど、大丈夫です。ゆうきさんこそ大丈夫？
And no, not really, but sure, never been better. What about you?
大丈夫じゃないってば。ちっとも。
Of course not. Not in the
じゃあ行きま
slightest.
しょ
Perfect, let's go. What part of this is perfect? I don't know. Y'all are crazy. Before I could retort, Hizamatsu-san twisted the knob. The door swung open with a dull metallic groan, and he promptly walked right in. Yeah, that was loud, dude.
う。どうせクリーニングに入るからいいよね。
Oh, yeah, 'cause Japan now. Guess we won't need to worry about our shoes if the floor's gonna get cleaned anyway. Hizamatsu-san stepped inside without pausing to take his shoes off. I followed suit. Darkness fell over us as I shut the door behind me. There was still plenty of daylight left outside, and yet the interior of the apartment was dark at night. Well, yeah, all those newspapers. It's pitch black in here.
新聞紙貼ってるからだよね。
I bet the newspapers are blocking out the light. Oh, of course. I remember the newspapers I'd seen covering all the windows. Still, we needed a light source if we were to investigate anything. I moved to open the door
待って
again.
明かりならあるから。
Wait, I got a light right here. As he spoke, a small beam of light flared to life before me, and I realized he was using the flashlight app on his cell phone. Without further ado, Hizamatsu-san walked to the windows and its unceremonious... I just don't feel like saying these words. Tore down newspapers. The light of the sunset filtered into the room all at once, brightening our surroundings considerably. Emboldened by the last rays of daylight, I moved further into the apartment. I debated taking my shoes off, but ultimately decided against it. Oh lord, y'all are in an abandoned apartment. Come on. Meanwhile, Hizamatsu-san continued to tear down newspapers indiscriminately. As I approached, he suddenly fell still.
どうしたの？
What's wrong?
同じだ。
It's the same. His voice was so faint it wasn't clear he'd actually heard my question. He stared wide-eyed at the window pane.
同じって何が？
What's the same? Ugh. Followed his gaze to the window but couldn't see much. Beyond the window lay the balcony. It didn't look particularly damaged or dirty, minus some handprints on it. Handprints? Wow, lady. Oh god. I heard my voice shift up. Oh god! I heard it shift up an octave. As Hizamatsu-san's fingers trailed over the glass. That's when I realized.
姉ちゃんの時と同じだ。
This is exactly how it was for my sister. The handprints were on the outside of the glass. Illuminated by the sunset, I could see dozens and dozens of them. But why would the culprit hit the window in the first place?
暗くなる前に壁も見るか。
Let's check the walls before it gets too dark. Just then I noticed that the sun had set almost completely. Hizamatsu-san straightened up and moved to the nearest newspaper-covered wall.
本当に剥がすの？
Are you sure about this?
そのために入ったんでしょ。
It's the whole reason we came here, isn't it? Standing behind him, I couldn't see his expression. But I could tell his shoulders were stiff.
剥がしますよ。
Here goes. His voice wavered faintly. Glancing at me over his shoulder, he reached up high with one hand. His fingers clamped around the top of the newspaper. Then he whipped his hand down in one fluid motion. A loud ripping sound rent the air as the newspaper tore all the way down. Himatsu-san standing in the way. I couldn't really see the wall. A strangled groan escaped his lips as he froze, rooted to the spot.
久松さん
Hizamatsu-san? I couldn't bring myself to get any closer. I knew I needed to see the wall for myself, but I couldn't take a single step.
ねえ久松さんどうしたの？
Hey, Hizamatsu-san, what's the matter? In response to my question, Hizamatsu-san shuddered visibly.
こりゃ引いて。
This is nuts. He stumbled backwards and I caught a glimpse of something over his shoulder. There looked to be some sort of stain on the white wallpaper.
何？
What's that? I still couldn't really make it out from here. Finally, I took a step forward, bringing myself shoulder to shoulder with Hizamatsu-san. Oh, God. Ooh. A scream welled up in the back of my throat, but Hizamatsu-san quickly clapped a trembling hand over my mouth.
ダメだ、静かに。
Don't. We need to be quiet. I stood, knees shaking, too transfixed on the wall to listen. Hizamatsu-san pulled me into an embrace as if to shield me from the sight.
落ち着いて。
Calm
俺が
down.
言うたきりじゃないけど、落ち着いて。
I know I'm not one to talk, but just calm down for me, okay? I don't blame her. If I saw that, I'd be out of there in like a nanosecond. No thank you. I could hear the squeak in my voice. It felt like that scream was still clogging my throat. Even with Hizamatsu-san blocking the way, I could still see the wall in my mind clear as day. That's a woman! A strange stain stood out in bold relief on the wall. A stain in the shape of a woman with disheveled hair and hate in her eyes. That's nightmare fuel right there. Good God.
はい、どうぞ。
There you go. Better get that woman something strong, man, I swear. Hizamatsu-san set a mug down in front of me. Mechanically, I picked it up and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted up to greet
ミ
me.
ルクと砂糖いります？
Need any milk or sugar? I slowly shook my head and he sat down the opposite side of the coffee
少
table.
しは落ち着きました？
Wow, he recovered quickly. Feeling a little calmer now? Taking a sip of his own coffee, Hizamatsu-san spread something out on the table. I glanced over to find what appeared to be a series of newspaper clippings. From there, my gaze wandered around the room beyond the dark gray curtains, a masculine color to be sure. I could see the darkness of night had set in. For a split second, I pictured the woman's baleful eyes peering back at me from beyond the shadows, and reflexively, I looked away.
さすがにちょっときつかったですね。
I
あ
wouldn't
れ
say
は。
gruesome, but creepy. Pretty gruesome back there, huh? He folded a knee up to his chest and leaned his chin against it. Evidently, he'd read my mind. He closed his eyes as if in recollection. Personally, I didn't want to remember it. The dark shadows spreading over that pale wallpaper. Its eyes, twisted of hate. As the memory threatened to rear its head, I hastily took a sip of my coffee. God! In my rush, I'd forgotten to test the temperature of the drink beforehand. Idiot. I can feel my lips and tongues
大丈夫。
burning. You okay? Look over to find him staring at me. The two of us had dashed out of apartment 203 and without even pausing to lock the door behind us, headed straight for the third floor. We already made plans to swing by his place anyway, so I guess it worked out. I had absolutely no desire to stay in my apartment alone. Yeah, I don't blame her. Once we got here, his Asa-san went out of his way to help me calm down. Without his help, I probably would have lost it entirely, yeah.
大丈夫。ごめんなさい。
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry for
無
freaking
理も
out.
ないと思いますよ。俺もちょっとやばかったし。
I was just calmer about it. Of course, because I'm the guy. No, doesn't matter. Hey, I don't blame you. I was pretty freaked myself. I took another sip of coffee and felt the hot, bitter fluid warm my stomach after burning my whole mouth. Finally, Finally, I had recovered my composure. Good lord.
資料見ます？
When I looked through my files, Hizamatsu-san gestured at the papers spread across the table. I must have looked notably calmer.
そのためにお邪魔したし。
Might as well. I mean, that's why we're here. Upon first glance, Hizamatsu-san's newspaper clippings all appeared to pertain to the same incident. Female college student goes missing. In city Maibara. Police began investigation after Yumihara Takusan, age 20, went missing on the morning of the 20th. Takusan attended J University. According to a friend, she went missing shortly after a phone call a few hours prior, around midnight. Missing college student found dead in the mountains. M City, Maibara. Missing college student Yumihara Matoka-san, age 20, was found dead on the morning of the 1st by local hiker Fujiwara Shinya-san, age 43. Police have ruled the death a suicide after discovering a rope tied to a tree branch on the scene. As of today, her remains are to be sent back to her family. M City, Maibara, the very town where our apartment complex was located. I read through the rest of the clippings, and sure enough, they were all related to the missing college student.
この記事は
What's so special about this case? I looked over at Hizamatsu-san. He took a sip of his coffee, then set his mug down on the
そ
table.
の記事見て何か気づきません？
Take another look. Notice anything?
どういうこと？
What do you mean? He carefully read over the clippings one more time. Suddenly, something caught my eye.
経営大学って久松さんの大学院。
Wait, J University? Isn't that the university your grad school is affiliated with? Hizamatsu-san snapped his fingers. I'm getting good at pronouncing these Japanese names, dude. Damn. Or these honorifics. His fingers. Bingo, I attended that same university myself, enrolled about 5 years before the date of that article. Which meant he was now somewhere around 23 years old. So young. Yeah, and she's in her 30s, so she's like, oh my god. Oh, jeez. Like, what am I supposed to... How am I supposed to respond to this? Sorry. Okay. Alright. Felt my gaze narrow with a hint of envy, but Hizamatsu-san continued.
結構覚えてるんですけどね、その事件。大学に警察が来たりして大変でした。
Oh, hey, Kai, he's legal at least, okay? It might feel weird, but at least he's legal. Thank goodness. I heard quite a bit about that incident, actually. There were cops crawling all over campus. It was nuts. Wow.
姉ちゃんがあんなことになって、俺なりに調べてみたんですよ。あの部屋のこと。
After what happened to my sister, I poked around a bit, tried to dig up whatever I could about that apartment.
そしたら、ちょうどサークルの先輩にその人の友達がいて、その人、素子さんが当時202号室に
Oh,
住んで
that's
たこと
right.
が
His
分かっ
sister
たん
was
です。
named Noriko. Yeah, it's different. I got confused for a second. As it happened, a guy in my club knew someone who was friends of her, and then I found out Otaku-san lived in apartment 202 at that
つ
time.
まり202号室の会議はこの事件と関係があるってこと？
You think apartment 202 had something to do with this case?
まだ憶測の範疇ですけどね。でも、時期的にはぴったりだし、妙なことはいくつかあるんですよ。
It's just a pet theory. I guess little theory I had, but the time frame matches up perfectly, and there are a few weird little details.
妙なことって？
Such as, I leaned across the table without realizing it. Hizamatsu-san did the same.
一つは、素子さんには自殺の動機がない。その先輩が言ってたけど、彼氏もいて成績もそれなりに良くて、大学生活は上々だったそうで。
one, Mataka-san had no motive to kill herself. According to my clubmate, she had decent grades and a boyfriend, the perfect college life.
他には
That's subjective, sir. Okay,
ル
and
ームメイトの存在。
she had a roommate.
ルームメイト
Why is that weird? A roommate? In other words, she shared a living space with a total stranger?
元子さんにはルームメイトがいたらしいんですよ。
Why is that? Is that not common in Japan or something? Whatever. Yep, supposedly she lived with someone.
ところが誰もその姿を見てないし、後で彼女の部屋に入った警察も親族もその痕跡を見つけることができなかった。
But whoever it was, no one ever saw them, and when they investigated her apartment, neither her family nor the police could find any trace of a second person living there.
そのルームメイトがいたって根拠は
Then why did anyone think she had a roommate?
俺の先輩が言ってたんです。必ず決まった曜日になると、今日は夕飯の当番だからって早く帰ってたって。
According to my clubmate, on certain days of the week, she'd leave school early, claiming she was on dinner duty that day.
彼氏と同棲してたって線は
Maybe she lived with her boyfriend? It certainly wasn't uncommon for young adults to move in together for
ところがで
marriage.
すよ。元子さんの彼氏がまたその先輩の知り合いなんですけど、彼女の部屋には一度も入ったことがないって。
That is kind of weird. So here's the thing. My clubmate knew Mataku-san's boyfriend, and according to him, the guy had never even been to her place. Ponder the facts for a moment. 5 years ago, Yumihara Matako died in a bizarre suicide. She had a roommate, but there was no evidence of another person living there. Oh. Okay, that's creepy. Was her death the trigger that caused strange phenomena to occur around apartment 202?
ねえ元子さんが死んだのは5年前で
I don't know why I could say
202
that
が貸し出さ
easier
れ
than
な
the
くな
other
った
thing. I
の
don't
はそ
know
の直
why.
後として
Wait, if Mataku-san... Maybe I've been saying it wrong this whole time, I'm sorry. Japanese, the followers, fans. If died 5 years ago and 202 was taken off the market right
部屋で
afterwards.
死んだわけじゃない元子さんがどうしてあの部屋に思いを残してるのかしら
Good point. How could her spirit haunt the place if she didn't even die there to begin with?
そこは俺も知りたいところですね。分かってるのは、元子さんの自殺は確実にあの部屋の異常に関係あるってこと。
I wish I had an answer myself. All I know is Mataku-san's suicide definitely had something to do with
あの部
202.
屋にある怨念だかなんだか知らないやつは
Sorry.
周囲の部屋に影響を及ぼすほど強いってことくらいですか。
Maybe the apartment's cursed or something to the point that it spread to all the neighboring apartments too. Y'all are just now saying that? Really?
さっぱりだわ
Then again, this is like a few days, literally. I have no
さっ
clue.
ぱりですね。
You and me both. At this point, there was nothing more we could really do. We weren't professionals after all. But I knew someone who
倉
was.
庫にでも聞いてみるか
Guess I could try asking Shoko.
翔子さんって
Shoko who?
私の妹雑誌社に勤めてるの確かあそこオカルト関係とかゴシップ関係の部署もあったと思うから聞いてみる
She's my sister, works for a magazine publisher. I'm told they have a department for rumors or unsolved mysteries or what have you, so I'll see if she knows anything.
いいですね。何かいい情報が入るかも。
Sounds good. Maybe she'll have a lead for
小
us.
さい会社だから期待はしないでね
It's
さ
a,
て
it's a small company though, so don't get your hopes up. Anyway, I glanced up at the clock hanging on the wall, 7:30 p.m. Evidently, I've been here for much longer than I originally
もう
intended.
こんな時間
Not really. Late. That's not late. Okay. It's getting pretty late. His Matsu-san followed my gaze to
あ、
the clock.
本当だ。
Oh, wow. No kidding.
そろそろおいとまするわ論文の邪魔できないし
I should get going. Wouldn't want to interrupt your thesis. Well, I don't know. Maybe they went in there way earlier or something. Who knows?
それは午前中で終わったからいいんですけど。
Actually, I finished this morning, so...
何
So? His Matsu-san shot me a pointed look. There was a pause. Somehow I knew what he was trying to suggest.
多分大
丈夫。ここに泊めてもらうわけにはいかないし。帰るわ。
Okay, lady. I'll probably be fine. I don't want to impose on you by staying here. I'll just go home for the night.
一応携帯の番号は登録しといてくださいよ。落ち着いたみたいだけど
Aw.
やっぱり心配だし。
Well, could you at least save my number in your phone then? Things are okay for right now, but I'm worried about you.
ありがとう。
I will, thanks. Frankly, I was worried about myself too. Yeah. Still, I didn't want to mooch off the kindness of someone I only met the day before. Man, this is a lot of
じゃあ
stuff in
とりあえ
2
ず何か進
days.
展があったら
Well, call me if anything happens.
おやすみなさい。
But if it's after midnight, I swear to God. Okay, will do. Have a good night. That's creepy looking, I gotta say. I don't know, I don't see a hand or anything, but it's just creepy. With that casual farewell, I walked out of apartment 301. I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to be doing that if it looked like feeling ever so slightly disappointed. Damn it, girl, you missed. That doesn't mean you'd have to do anything, because y'all just met, but forget it. By the time I reached the door to 201, that slight disappointment had transformed into massive regret. The hallway lights did little to mitigate the oppressive feel of the darkness. The aging fluorescent bulbs flickered overhead, casting shadows over the walls. Meanwhile, the door to my apartment seemed to tower over me. Not that I was expecting a warm welcome. I turned away from the door. Somehow I couldn't bring myself to put the key in the lock. In fact, I had half a mind to go to a diner or something instead. But
ここが家なのよね。
this is supposed to be where I live. An unfortunate fact, though it may have been. How was I supposed to spend the next year living here when I was ready to get the hell out of Dodge after just 2 days? Yeah, that's tough. Summoning all my courage, and also 6 months rent, that's ridiculous. For an early move-out fee. That's nuts. Ugh. Summoning all my courage to turn back to the door. For a moment I fiddled idly with the key, rattling against the keyring. Then finally I plunged it into the lock and turned it. I reluctantly put my hand on the doorknob. I had to do this. I had to go in my my apartment. Pressing my hand, the door clicked open. Gravity pulled my hand downward and the knob with it. Then I poured the door toward me and unsealed the abyss. From the door I had a full view through to the living room. Relieved at the absence of anything peculiar, I quickly flipped the light switch by the door. Then I whipped my shoes off, stumbled inside, switched on all the other lights in the house for good measure. While I was at it, I shut both the living room and bedroom curtains. Then finally I could breathe. The apartment was perfectly ordinary. I've been planning to bolt on the spot. I've been planning to bolt on the spot had anything supernatural manifested, but evidently that wouldn't be necessary, so I went back and locked the front door. Weakly, I staggered into the living room and collapsed onto the sofa. All at once, my exhaustion hit me like a ton of bricks. My paranoia wouldn't let me relax, even for a moment. The way things are going, I can already tell there was no chance I'd last a full year living there.
3ヶ月しか持ちませんでした。
Yeah, and that too. She only lasted 3 months. And this is 2 days. Ugh, good God. Ugh. Poor lady. The memory of his words sent a shudder down my spine. But no, I'd be fine. At least for
とりあえ
today.
ず今日のところは
At least for today. I repeated the words to myself. Sorry, checking on my thing. Okay. 2 viewers. Alright, at least for today. I repeated the words to myself out loud like a mantra, then heaved a sigh and realized I was hungry. Oh god, yeah, that's right. You haven't eaten like all day, I don't think. Scared as I was still human.
軽くご飯でも食べよ
Guess I'll make myself a little something. After a quick dinner, I popped the cork on the wine I brought for myself as a housewarming. I drink all the wine, lady. Honestly, I would have stayed at the guy's apartment, and I would try to not impose, and God, I mean, just sleep on the couch or something. You guys obviously aren't, like, lovers at sight or anything, but good God, dude. or a hotel. Something. I popped the cork on the wine I bought for myself. One sip and I could already feel myself starting to relax. Guess the alcohol is doing its job. Well, that's because you haven't really eaten anything all day, lady. Whether my apartment was cursed or not, surely I deserve some modicum of I've never heard of that. Of normalcy, at least. With that thought, I got to my feet and headed to the bathroom. The reason I'd chosen to commit to this apartment, despite the slightly pricey rent, was simple. The bathtub came with an automatic water heater. Personally, I like to take long baths. Whenever I was stuck on a design idea, I often found myself spending upwards of 2 hours lounging in the water. Ooh. Hence, a tub heater was at the top of my must-have list. My last apartment hadn't had one, and it was absolutely miserable. Truth be told, I was dying to take a nice long soak, but after everything that happened today, I decided to skip it and just take a quick shower instead. Yeah, I don't blame you. The hot water rushed over my head, instantly soothing me. This was the one part of my life in which I felt no shame in spoiling myself. Lathering a fragrant shampoo into my hair, I felt my mood start to lift. For once, I could just relax. I leaned back against the hot water and rinsed the shampoo out of my hair, then massaged it in the conditioner. Yeah, these visual novels get very detailed. Then I turned off the water so I could scrub myself down. As the drone of the water subsided, I could make out the sound of the television, which I had left... Oh, okay, which she had left on blaring in the other room. Half listening, I ran the soapy sponge over my body. The evening music program was on. They had just switched to one of my favorite songs. Just as I was getting into it, however, I noticed something off. Ew. Splat. That's creepy. Huh? Sounded like something wet had hit the floor. Ew! I checked the faucet, but it wasn't leaking. Oh, God! Sounds so gross. Splat. Something was definitely dripping onto the floor somewhere. Splat. What is that? I don't know, man, but I'd be like, what the hell? And run out of there. Stop making those splat. It was like the sound of a frog hitting concrete. It sounds a little... Oh, God. Instantly, fear rose up like bile in the back of my throat. In other words, I feel like I had a throat. I quickly finished soaping up my body, then turned the water back on. Splat. But the drone of the shower did little to drown out that splatting sound. That sounded so utterly disgusting. It sounded like it was coming from outside the bathroom. Oh, God, that's creepy. Hastily, I rinsed my hair and body. Good Lord, you're taking a time. Considering how freaked out you are, lady, you're taking a long time of your shower, aren't you? Just then... I don't hear that noise. Slip. I'm not screaming that. Something touched my cat. Oh, God. Something cold. Startled, I pushed my wet hair on my face and looked at my feet. But nothing was there. What was that? In an instant, my good mood was gone. Yeah, I did. Yeah. I hurried out of the bathroom, ran a towel over myself, and moved into the living room. Hands shaking, I took a clean change of clothes from my clothes drawer and pulled them on in spite of my still wet body. Ugh, that's not comfortable. Late night diner, here I come. I couldn't bear to stay in the apartment for one moment longer. I struggled in my jeans and forced my arms through a long-sleeved jersey knit top. I glanced at the clock, 10 p.m. Oh, jeez. Bam! I shrieked yeah. Something had slammed hard into the window. I could feel my teeth chattering. Bam! Stop. Please just stop. I grabbed 3 things, my wallet, my keys, and my phone. Then I bolted out of the apartment and never looked back.